Hello and welcome to the Rock Solid Tranquility Hara program. You will already have received this manual and you will already have received the audio presentation. And before you watch this video presentation in depth and try to do the exercises, I'd encourage you to read through the manual very carefully and also to listen to the audio presentations. Because the manual and the audio presentations contain most of the theory you'll need to know in order to get the most out of these exercises. The ancient art of Hara, as you probably know, began in China and was transferred to Japan, where it became the basis of Japanese culture. In fact, the principles behind the art of Hara are the same principles behind the ancient world's traditions of spiritual life, health maintenance, and martial arts. So if you're actually watching this presentation, more than likely you have one of four goals in mind. Either you want to defeat chronic stress and anxiety and live a stress-free life, or perhaps you want to master the world's foremost meditation system and deepen your spiritual life. You may simply want to improve your health and boost your immune system, or you may want to deepen your martial arts practice. But whatever your goal, the exercises in this video presentation are the key to laying an indispensable foundation. It's impossible to use Hara until you know how to accumulate it, and that's what these exercises are going to tell you. So we have a lot to cover, and we're going to begin right now. One of the main discoveries of authentic ancient traditions was that mental state influences breathing. And you probably know this from experience. You know that if you're angry or agitated, your breathing tends to become rougher and it tends to rise higher in the chest. You begin to feel a kind of angst associated with high chest breathing. Now, ancient traditions also realized that the connection between your mental state and your breathing could work in reverse. You can actually use breathing to control the way your mind works, to control your emotional state, and thereby actually to control the state of energy movement in your body. What we're going to learn now is the most basic and effective breathing technique. We call it normal abdominal breathing. It's the foundation of virtually all martial arts, meditation, and health techniques. And so to begin with, Anna's going to stand with her feet at shoulder width apart and adopt a nice, easy, and relaxed posture. And for this demonstration, what you're going to do and what she's going to do is begin normal abdominal breathing. In normal breathing, when we inhale, our abdomen expands, and when we exhale, the abdomen contracts. And this is what Anna's going to demonstrate now. Face that way. So you can probably see it actually as she inhales, the abdomen moves out a little bit, and then as she exhales, it comes back in. This is what we want to do. So now if you'd like to pause the DVD, what I'd like you to do is try normal abdominal breathing. Simply put yourself in a relaxed stance with your feet roughly shoulder width apart. Don't worry too much about the details. And simply focus on your breathing. Observe the breath coming in and going out, but try to keep your attention more or less on the abdomen. The reason is, of course, that this in fact is Hara, or what the Chinese refer to as Danjian, the elixir field or ocean of energy, which is the body's main energy storage area. Anna's going to put one hand on her navel and then one hand on the top of her pubic bone. The easy way to locate Hara, or Danjian, is to go roughly in the middle. And that's approximately where it's located. Typically it's said that the Danjian in Chinese, or Hara to use the Japanese expression, is located about 3 inches below the navel and about 1/3 of the way back inside the body. It's not a precise pinhead-size point. It's actually a broad area through which most of the body's main energy channels run. It's the body's main energy storage and generation area. And so when we breathe in normal abdominal breathing, we're expanding this area and then contracting when we exhale. So pause your DVD now and try that for about 3 minutes. For the next section, we're going to add just a little bit to what you've already learned. You may have noticed that when you were expanding and contracting the abdomen, that is when you were inhaling and exhaling, that you could feel various sensations in this whole area. Now, one of the particular points we want to go to is called the perineum. The perineum is at the very bottom of your torso. It's really, if you were to draw a line from the very top of your head, or allow a carpenter's rule or plumb line to go straight down, it would come out right at the bottom, between the base of the genitals and the anus. That's where the perineum is located. Now, if you do your normal abdominal breathing and you just simply pay attention to the perineum point, you'll notice something very interesting. You'll notice that when you inhale, the perineum seems to push down a little bit. And when you exhale, it naturally comes up a little bit. This is a very slight natural motion. So what I'd like you to do now is pause your DVD and try that for about 3 minutes. Do the same breathing, but this time simply pay attention to the perineum. Now that you've done that, we're going to modify that very, very slightly. For another 3 minutes, do exactly the same breathing pattern with your focus on the perineum again, but this time add a little bit of muscular force to it. That is, deliberately push down as you inhale and deliberately contract as you exhale. So you'll feel this outward motion as you inhale and this contraction upward motion as you exhale. Add only a little bit of muscular force. Don't make it a great deal. This isn't quite like doing Kegel exercises or exercises for the PC muscle. However, the muscles that you're engaging are really the same. So try that for another 3 minutes. The final precision that we'd like to add for a normal abdominal breathing is this one, that when you inhale, what expands is not only the front of your abdomen, but you should feel an expansion all the way around, almost as if your entire torso had become an inner tube. And one way to verify this is to have someone come up and put a hand on your kidney. The kidney area is, of course, located on either side of the spine, just below the ribs. It's that kind of tender area if you hit it a little bit. Now, if someone were to put their hand there, they can tell when you're doing normal abdominal breathing whether you're inflating only to the front or whether you're inflating all the way around. It's kind of difficult to tell for most people, but that is to tell visually, but when someone puts a hand there, they can feel it most definitely. I'll have Anna do that to me now. So this is expanding to the front. Expanding all the way around is different. You could probably see that a little bit. It's something you can definitely feel up close. So what we'd like you to try now, again, pausing your DVD, is to do the same exercise, normal abdominal breathing, but this time try to sense an expansion all the way around. Don't force it. It should be easy and natural. But give it a try and see what it feels like. All of the Hara method has to do with feeling the inner landscape of your body. And so you want to take your mental attention and put it into this area as you do this breathing exercise. If you're not used to normal abdominal breathing, if it's something you've never encountered through studying yoga, martial arts, or anything else, you should probably continue doing this exercise every day for about 2 weeks. And when you're doing the exercise itself, you can concentrate on these different aspects, either just the breathing itself, expanding all the way around the perineum, trying to combine them if you wish. The basics of Hara demand that your default setting for breathing every day, all day, every day, that it become normal abdominal breathing. But when we say that, we don't mean necessarily with all these details. You don't have to obsess about details. The main thing is just to be mentally aware of your breath, inhaling and exhaling, and to be aware of Hara, that you inhale down to the Dantian, down to the Hara, and you exhale out from it. That's the basics, and that's what you really need to keep in mind unless you're specifically doing this normal abdominal breathing exercise, in which case you can put in the extra details. What we're going to begin now is called Sitting Still Doing Nothing, or SSDN. As you already know from the course, SSDN is basically a meditation method. In fact, It's really the most powerful and the safest and most reliable meditation method of the ancient world. Any other meditation system derives its power and efficacy only after you've mastered this. This meditation method, or SSDN, is something which you have to do sitting. It's called sitting practice. And in order to sit, you first have to find a posture, and that's what we're going to do in a minute. But first, we want to explain that this posture is chosen for very specific reasons. First of all, because you'll be able to sit in it for a long period of time without undue discomfort. That's extremely important. Another important element of the posture you choose is that it meets certain postural criteria that maximize blood flow and energy circulation in the body. That's very important both mentally and physically, because if your posture is not optimum, if you're compromising blood flow and energy flow, what it will mean is you're probably going to fall asleep. So in order to attain maximum alertness and to prevent the body from being an impediment to what you're trying to do, you have to find exactly the right posture, and here's how we're going to do it. You may have heard, or you may have an idea when you think of meditation, that meditation is something that people do sitting in that totally impossible position known as the full lotus, which is what Anne is going to show you now. You can sit in the full lotus, in fact. It's an excellent posture and has a great number of advantages. The full lotus anchors the lower back extraordinarily well. It enables you to sit for a long period of time. However, the problem is that most Westerners can't use it because in order to get into it and stay in it comfortably, you have to be extremely flexible. Now, most of us aren't, and most of us can't do it. In fact, if you can't sit in the full lotus comfortably for more than about 10 or 15 minutes, you probably shouldn't be trying to use it because it's simply too dangerous. If you try to bulldoze through all that pain, not only will you be incredibly distracted and unable to accomplish anything, but you can easily injure your knees and end up in surgery. You don't want to do that. So there are several alternatives, and we're going to show you what some of those alternatives are. Anne is right now going to show you the half lotus, which is considerably easier to accomplish, where only one foot is up on the opposite thigh and the other foot is on the ground. This is a lot easier to accomplish. There's a third posture called the ankle lock, where both feet are in front of the body. And that posture is, in fact, it's my personal favorite. Those are the three basic postures for cross-legged sitting. Ordinary cross-legged sitting, which you probably learned when you were a child in school, is really not the best way to go because it tends to inhibit blood circulation in the legs, and you really can't stay there for very long. Now, there's one other postural possibility, which is more typically Japanese, and that one is a kneeling posture. In the kneeling posture, what happens is the buttocks is basically cradled between the ankles. And this is an easy posture to use. In fact, it's extremely popular in Japan. There is only one problem with it, and that is, well, two problems actually, for Westerners, that you get extreme pain in the knees after a short period of time, or you may, some people do. And the other thing, I'll just turn Anna around here on the magic carpet, is that you can end up with extreme ankle pain as well. There is a way of getting around that. Now, if Anna leans forward, I'll show her what it is. Lift up a little bit. You can actually insert a pillow behind. Spread your legs a little bit. Okay. Okay, sit back. By doing that, you take the burden a little bit off the knees and off the ankles. That's one way to go. It works extremely well. There's another thing about cushions or pillows that I'd like to show you, and it's extremely important for all those other postures. And we'll just spin Anna around again. And can you go back to one of the cross-legged postures, whichever one you want? Okay. Now, can you lift up a little bit? Put this under you. By putting a cushion under Anna's buttocks, we've done something very particular, and this is an incredible aid, an incredible trick, if you will, for doing any of these sitting postures. Because what happens without that, if there is no cushion, for instance, and you're trying to sit in a meditative position, you inevitably end up using the muscles in the small of your back to try to keep yourself vertical. The alternative to that, or what happens when your muscles give out, I should say, is called collapse. Collapse looks like this. It's when your outer back collapses backward because the muscles in your back have finally said, enough, I can't do this anymore. What Anna's doing now, what we've managed to achieve with this cushion, is to get around that problem entirely. And the way we've done it is by elevating Anna a little bit, and by getting her slightly forward, she can find a precise point at which it's no longer her muscles that are holding her up. It's her skeletal structure. And that's a key point. You want to have your skeletal structure holding you up, doing all the work, because it can do it easily. You don't have to think about it. You don't get tired. You don't get pain. And there's no danger of collapse. You can no longer collapse, in fact. So by putting a cushion under here, in almost whatever posture you're in, unless possibly the full lotus where you may not need it, you can get around that whole problem very easily and attain a relatively straight back, but a very relaxed one as well, because it's only skeletal structure that's holding you up and you don't have to use the muscles. What you'll have to do, though, is once you have a cushion under here, you'll have to play a little bit with exactly where that point is at which you no longer have to use muscle to keep yourself up. You have to lean forward very slightly until you find that exact point. And that just takes a little bit of experimentation. And it will always depend on exactly how thick the particular pillow or cushion you're using is. So those are the main postures for sitting, with one exception, one very notable exception, which we're going to show you right now, that it is possible, in fact, to sit on a chair. Okay. So Anna is now going to sit on a chair and sit, but she's going to sit actually very close to the edge and put her feet flat on the floor. The reason for having Anna sit very close to the edge is because otherwise what typically happens is that the edge of a chair will begin to cut off blood flow in the legs right about there, and then you'll get numbness and pain after only a few minutes. This way, you avoid the problem. You also have the cushion under the buttocks, which enables Anna, again, to find that precise point at which she does not have to use the muscles of her lower back to hold herself up. It's all skeletal structure at that point, and she can do it very easily. The one thing we haven't talked about yet is where the hands go in meditation for SSDN. To be honest, it really doesn't matter. You will see all kinds of things in various meditation programs. You will see hands up, you will see hands down, you will see hands in the middle. It doesn't matter. Use whatever's comfortable for you. What we're going to do now is do our first session of SSDN together. And as you'll see, there are various types or points of concentration that we can use. What we're going to begin with is a very simple method where we begin by concentrating on the dynamics of normal abdominal breathing itself. Very simple, very easy. But first we're going to get in the right posture. What I'd like you to do is choose the posture, the sitting posture that you like, whether that's a chair or any of the sitting postures we've discussed. And once you've done a little bit of light stretching, stretch your legs a little bit in particular, and you get down into the posture, the first thing to do is to arch your back a little bit and then let the vertebrae fall back gently into position. Then turn your head to the left and to the right a few times, very gently. Your torso can turn a little bit, that's okay. All you're trying to do here is limber up the spine a little bit. And do it slowly enough that you don't cause yourself any damage. Be particularly careful if you've had any back injuries in the past or neck injuries. Once you feel relaxed and limber enough, simply assume the position you want. Again, your hands can be up, down, center. It's up to you. Your eyes can be either completely closed or just partly closed. And you want to be focused more or less on an area about a meter in front of you. Now we're going to get into a few more postural details. You want to have your spine relatively straight. The spine is never perfectly straight. It's a natural S-curve. But you want it to be relatively so. And you want to find that particular point by leaning ever so slightly forward, that particular point where your skeletal structure is holding you up. So once you've found that point, we're going to spend the next few minutes doing normal abdominal breathing. So pause the DVD now, and maintaining this sitting position, relax into the dynamics of your breathing. Just allow your mental attention to observe your breath going in and going out. And keep your attention more or less on Hara, on the lower dantian. And from there, watch that breathing dynamic. You want your concentration on Hara to be relatively loose, not really tight. You want to watch what's going on, observe your own inner landscape. But you don't want to be so tight or so focused in your concentration that you cause yourself to tighten up. You don't want to cause muscular tension. You're trying to get rid of it. So try that now. For the next segment, what we're going to do is continue with normal abdominal breathing, but we're going to make it a little bit more sophisticated. This time, as you inhale, you're going to imagine that your Hara is really a ball of energy, and that as you inhale, energy is moving into the Hara from all around you, from every direction. And that the Hara, this ball of energy, is in a sense contracting as this energy moves into it. And then when you exhale, you're going to imagine that the Hara expands, that this energy expands outward. This is partly an exercise in imagination, but really it's more than that. You're using imagination only to make yourself aware of a dynamic that already exists. Because if you allow yourself to feel, physically feel with your mental attention, the sensations in the area around your waist, this is exactly the dynamic you'll sense, that for some reason, when you inhale, there is an inward movement, and as you exhale, there's a great expansion that takes place. So what you're going to do is pause the DVD again for 3 to 5 minutes and concentrate again, or be aware of your normal abdominal breathing just as you did in the first part, but this time be aware of this energy coming in and then this energy expanding outward. For this next segment, what we're going to do is loosen our concentration a little bit on the breathing. You should still be aware of every breath, aware of inhaling and exhaling, aware of Hara. But at the same time, you're going to relax into that breathing and be aware of thoughts that arise. Of course, as you do this more and more and you prolong your SSDN sessions, what's going to happen is at various times, thoughts will overwhelm you, thoughts of all kinds of things, all kinds of perhaps irrelevant things, and you have to learn how to deal with thoughts. So the breathing allows you to reach a place where you can separate yourself, your personal identity, from your thoughts. You begin to see that your thoughts are not you, and that your thoughts don't have to have power over you. What you need to do with thoughts when they arise is simply let them come and go. Don't try to oppose them by force, and don't try to go along with them. You will find at times that your mind will go along with a thought and start playing with it. Just gently bring it back to the breathing. Gently bring it back to observing the breath. That's all you want to do. So now pause the DVD again for another 3 to 5 minutes and keep going with that. Just watch thoughts arise if they do, and if they don't, that's fine. That's the basic instruction on carrying out SSDN. Of course, as you know in the back of the manual, there's an extremely elaborate training schedule for the first several weeks of what you're going to do. For the first week, however, what you want to do with SSDN is just do what we've described. Just be, sit and be. Watch the breathing, follow the directions we've just given you, play with those different dynamics a little bit. All of this is about reaching a stage where you're able to observe your inner landscape with your mental attention, observe physical processes with your mental attention, observe mental processes and the arising and going of thoughts with your mental attention. SSDN is one of the most potent anti-anxiety and anti-stress remedies that exists, and it's the basis of practically all the riches of ancient culture. So get used to it, begin to relax into it, because the dynamic you discover in your SSDN is something we're going to teach you how to take into the everyday activities of your busy lives. The next exercise we're going to do is called the 9-step body scan. The body scan method is a particular type of Qigong exercise, if you will, a particular type of exercise for dissolving tension, dissolving emotion, blocked emotional tensions that are lodged in your flesh, lodged in your muscular structure, if you will. Now, if you suffer from chronic anxiety or from severe stress, you've probably noticed that you lodge this tension somewhere in your body, perhaps in more than one place. The typical places where this is lodged, of course, is head, back of neck, shoulders, chest, diaphragm, abdomen, and a number of other places. That's why psychological stress causes so many bizarre physical symptoms, because its tension is lodged somewhere. So this method is a way of using your mind to dissolve these kind of emotional or energetic blockages and simply allow them to be dissolved, just allow them to go to ground, so to speak. We're going to show you first a sitting method for doing this, then we're going to show you a much faster standing method. Well, the standing method actually can be used in any posture, but it's kind of what you might call a quick start thing